Welcome to Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior. I am Pei-I. I'm a parenting and teen challenging behavior specialist at Rainbow Parenting Practice. Over the last 30 years, I've worked with children, teenagers, and then families with various complex needs across different settings. But it is my personal story, being a troubled teenager, that led me to the creation of my innovative parenting method, Thriving Together Parenting Method. It can help you and your team to have a more loving, respect-driven relationship and the happiness and harmony in your family home in 90 days. No matter what challenging behavior it is, how challenging it has been, and for however long your family has been in a difficult place. Many families came to me when they were in crisis or at breaking point. My TTP method is the secret to their transformative family lives. It can be yours too. I am thrilled for you to be here, and that possibly means you are a successful but stressed out parent who is managing a very demanding job but struggling to know what to do and how to help your troubled teen who is stuck in patterns of challenging behavior. You're fed up with trying everything but nothing works. You're looking for solutions yesterday and are determined to do whatever it takes to help your teen and family thrive. At Teen Talk, Navigating Teen Challenging Behavior, I will share all the insights I've learned from working with families and their teenagers over the years. I will not hold back. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome to the show. My name is Pei-I, and this is my co-host. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, you probably won't, if you didn't watch YouTube, you won't know Belle is my teenage co-host. But you definitely have to go to YouTube to see Belle. She's so wise and beyond her years, you know. So, and if this is the first time, let me introduce the sets of cards again. If this is the first time you're listening in, Belle and I's conversation are never ever scripted. What we do is we use these sets of cards, and either Belle or myself will draw the cards before the show, and not like when the show is being recorded, and then we will talk about whatever we draw in the cards. And these cards are about teenagers' lives. So we're looking through a particular topic through a teenager's lens and through a professional lens and through the parents' lens, because I work with teenagers. I work with parents who are trying to help their troubled teenagers to get out the negative cycles of their behavior. So this is what we do every single time in the show, and we hope you will enjoy it. Right. So Belle, would you like to draw the cards today? I really hope my internet won't crash. I will have a breakdown if it does. Right. Tell me when to stop. Stop. I'm shuffling. I think Belle may have frozen because of my terrible internet.
You froze again for like...
I know, this is terrible. It's okay. We'll keep going. Now I'm back. So I'm shuffling, Belle.
Okay, stop.
Okay, Belle.
No.
Looks like we're bound to speak about this today.
Oh, no. Is it? Right, okay.
I'm not joking. So what happened? All right, what happened was Belle and I just started recording the episode, and my internet crashed. So then we started again.
It must be a sign that we meant to speak about that today.
Exactly. The second time we're drawing the same card. What's the chance? So it's on the outside. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
So the card's bullying, isn't it? The card's bullying, isn't it?
Not necessarily about bullying, but you can take it many different ways as usual. You know, it's down to our interpretation and in which way you want to take it. Because it could be about somebody not fit into, and teenagers don't fit into a group. It could be, like you say, teenagers being bullied, and or it could be discrimination. So there are many different ways we can take it. But as usual, we don't script, so we just talk about anything, everything.
We just work it out.
You'll come to touch every single thing we want to speak about. But that's usually what happens. So why are you thinking? Oh, sorry. My thing has to fail. It's fine. It's
So
amazing.
my thoughts are, so my initial thought was bullying, and the photo on it looks very like what you think of when you think of bullying, like how it's in movies and stuff, like lots of people picking on someone and like how it happens, like that sort of thing. And then that made me think about if I've ever experienced bullying, and my
Mm-mm.
first thought is no, but then I
Mm-mm.
think actually bullying does take place in like friendships a lot, but
Mm-mm.
like subtle, more sort of manipulative bullying. And I think that's very common for being teenagers because that could be in terms of peer pressure, like if you don't fit in and you're trying to fit in with a group and you feel like you have to do certain things or like that sort of thing. I think that's quite bullying, like bullying behavior when friends who aren't very good friends pick on you and say
Mm-mm.
things about you specifically. And
Mm-mm.
that's the sort of, I wouldn't say I've been bullied, but I would say I've experienced some degree of that. And I
Mm-mm.
think a lot of people would have.
Mm-mm. I think in that
That was my
short, hmm?
that was my first thought
See, in
initially.
your thoughts, in that brief thoughts you share, you have covered a lot of aspects about thinking about teenagers feeling they're on the outside. So why don't
Uh-huh.
we just take each one as we go? Because the first one,
Hmm.
like as you mentioned bullying and you mentioned friendship in bullying in friendship, like close
Hmm.
circles with your friends, but then there's also parts of the what if you don't belong to any group,
Yeah.
and if you just feel like you never fit into any group. And there are many
Hmm.
teenagers experience that. It's like, which part of the social group do I belong?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are many ways we can think about it. But before we dissect each one of them, my initial thought was about my personal experience as a teenager, because that's how I felt throughout my teenage years. Is I was
Hmm.
always the one that was on the outside, and I
Hmm.
was always the one didn't know where I fit in.
Hmm.
So I was like, there's so many. I remember I spoke about last time in the Taiwanese education system. It's
Hmm.
very different, like junior high and senior high. But for me, that was the experience of being on the outside was quite consistent. Because when I was
Hmm.
in junior year, I was just like, oh, who could be my
Yeah.
friends? And I really didn't have many friends when I was in junior high school. That's
Hmm.
so sad now thinking about this. Seriously, but I didn't really have many friends because you remember I was saying to you, I was really tiny and I
Hmm.
was really like, I went to school too early. I was always tiny and I was like, what is that? What is
Hmm.
that? Those sort of
Hmm.
things. So maybe people think I was a bit goofy or I was a bit like
Hmm.
this wee girl was a bit weird.
Hmm.
So, and then I was so academically behind. Seriously, I was like child, just didn't do well. Seriously, I didn't do well at all. And then I was like thinking, so I was really struggling throughout the junior years. It's like,
Hmm.
which group do I belong? So I try to befriend boys, and then I usually get they'll make snidey comments about my height or the food I was eating, my grades, and all this thing. It's like, what the? I'm not gonna do this. I nearly
Yeah.
say what the schmidt, but I still said it down. And then I would try to be friend with girls, but then I didn't fit in either. So it was a really awkward and
Yeah.
uncomfortable feeling. But at that time, you also wanted to have friends because that is such an important
Yeah. It's so
developmental
important.
stage, like social life you want to have. Sadly, when I move on to senior high, I still feel the same way. But also, do you
Hmm.
remember I spoke about I have this group of girlfriends because I went to a girls' school and
Yeah.
they're all experimenting all these things. Even
Yeah.
that, I feel I was on the outside because
Yeah.
what they were doing. I just like, ow, and I was just like, how do I fit in? And that was
Hmm.
really, really difficult. And that was really unpleasant. So I can see why, and I can resonate with the teenagers' experiences when they went to senior high school, went to a secondary school. There was a lot
Hmm.
of change, and they have to develop all the skills to be friends with someone and to learn all the social skills and these things.
Yeah.
And if you are okay, we talk about differences, right?
Hmm.
Differences is good, but when you're in the secondary setting, all the teenagers want to feel the same. They want to be like,
Yeah.
oh, we're so cool, you know, we're this and that. So it's really, I've seen so many teenagers like I work with feel so on the outside, feel so isolated and excluded on
Mhm.
so many
Yeah.
different levels. Um,
I mean, I definitely experienced that. I mean, I moved from the countryside, a small town from the countryside into Glasgow in like a big school.
mhm.
And so my initial, like, I was so different to everyone. Like, everyone had grown up in the city, knew what everything was, everyone knew all the trends. Like, I'd only like just got a phone, and like my sort of weekend was like going and playing like the woods with my friends, and everyone else was like going shopping and stuff. So
Yeah.
I definitely was quite out of place. And I found it very hard to fit in within friendships. I would say it took me about 2 or 3 years to fully settle and become
Mhm.
accustomed to like everything. Because obviously I wasn't living in like a different country, but like it feels so different. Like it felt so different. Um, so I found it quite hard. I mean, I had some friendship groups. I always had one friend that I kept forever, but even that, me and her fell out when we were younger, and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Um, but like we both went between sort of friendship groups, and like everyone was kind of talking. It was a big group of people, but obviously within a big group, that means a lot of people don't like each other, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
fakeness, and there was a lot of issues like that. And I definitely remember just feeling very, I'd come home from school every day, and I'd just be like, that was awful. And like
Yeah.
every now
And
and
then,
again, yeah, and every now and again I'd come home from school and I'd be like, oh, that was such a good day. Like
mhm.
maybe it'll stay like that forever, but then it just never did. And that was really hard. But now, like, I mean, I would say in S4,
Mhm.
S3, S4, everything calmed down. But yeah, I definitely think that like,
Because you develop friendship, right? And
mm,
your friendship in school, how you are with friends in school, affect how you feel about your day.
mm.
And like you say, if you feel off your friends and you're just like, oh, this is such a bad day.
No, really, it really affects everything. Like
Yeah.
that's why I never take it for granted now. Like I have such good friends and everything's fine. Like I enjoy school because of it. And I really remember like it used to be every single day hope that I'd have a good day at school and I'd have a good friend, like we'd have good time with my friends or whatever my friends were, and it would be fine. And I think that's like such a common thing. Like I've spoke to so many people. I know that everyone I've spoke to that moved from another school
Mm-mm.
like definitely experienced that in some degree. I think like just this feeling of feeling out of place and like fitting in and like going into friendship groups where it's quite judgy or whatever, like there's so much pressure, and I think you can just feel very overly self-conscious at a very young age when that's happening. And that's what that picture in the card reminds me of, like just this feeling of feeling aware that you're not quite where you like feel like you are really confident or happy, like at the expense of other people, that other people are making fun of you, you think other people are talking about you, like a lot of paranoia I think that comes with bullying, or like subtle bullying.
Absolutely. And it's not, and also like social media is so crazy these days, so
Yeah.
convenient. If you do something different or out there, it's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
posted everywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
it there's the additional elements of stress. When I was
Mm-hmm.
that age, I was like yourself, playing in the woods, and then there's only so many things you can do with your house, right? But
Yeah.
but right now it's really, really different now. And then you're thinking about, you're talking about that one friendship group or one person can affect your day and everything. And then there are days you don't think, oh gosh, I didn't want to go to school. Not thinking about those young teenagers who actually experience this every single day. And then from S1 to S5, continue to feel like I don't belong to this. I'm always on the outside. And how, no wonder they didn't want to go to
it would
school.
feel I it would break down your confidence and make you feel so like, I feel like it almost would stunt you being able to grow and develop and like be able to like find out what you like, find out what you want to do, because when you have that feeling where you don't have the friends that you
Mm-hmm.
want, or your friendships are not quite right, and you don't fit in anywhere, and you feel like you only really have yourself, like you really do just feel that's all you can think about. It's all you care about, because you just, it's so important. You go to school every day, like
Mm-hmm.
school's hard enough as it is. The last thing you want is to not have a way of escaping it at lunch times or break times or
Mm-hmm.
like that. Would just be awful.
Absolutely. And now we are only talking about, you know, how teenagers might feel. All the teenagers might feel, but now there's another layer of complexity thinking about if you're a teenager with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a teenager with autism, or you're a teenager who self-harm, or, have depression, anxieties, all these things that is, troubling you,
Yeah.
how are you going to be seen? Or you have a physical disability. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
the disabilities is not able to
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
invisible disabilities. All these things affects who you are and how you are with people. And the risk or the worry things is because teenagers, they're still learning about the world, right? They don't
Mm-hmm.
know many about disabilities or invisible disabilities. And we talked about a bit sexuality last week and all these things is these things are very new to them for the person who experienced them. Like, if I have
Yeah.
ADHD, I probably wouldn't know what ADHD is as a teenager. Or it's like,
Yeah.
what is this? How is this affecting me?
Yeah.
Why can I do these things? Or why am I always this? Right. So there's things like they are still trying to figure out. And then if your peers around you or the teachers or the people around you don't understand that, it make it even more difficult. And then what you
Yeah.
will tend to do, it's just to fake it, pretend it, mask it.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to be like everybody else and do what everybody does. And what
Yeah.
that really does to a teenager is really affect their emotional well-being, and
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many parents struggle with their teenagers because they have to mask that part, mask their differences, hide their differences, and then be like normal and be able to fit in school. And then we go home and just break, and then they can
Mm-hmm.
have an outburst of very angry tantrum or smashing their house or all this because there's just too much things there are too many things they're carrying in school,
Mm-hmm.
so there's really difficult.
That's actually really interesting to hear, because I I struggled a bit with that with school. I have like learning difficulties. I mean, I can't like process my learning. I can't remember it. Like there's been thoughts of ADHD, but whatever.
Mhm.
But within school, I found it very isolating. I mean, every single lesson, what was going on, everyone could just answer questions, do the work. And I was smart, like mentally talking and whatever, I was smart, but I couldn't keep up with the work. I couldn't
Mhm.
like, know what was going on all the time. I couldn't hear what the teacher was saying. Like I didn't understand. I always just felt confused. And I just felt like I had to just pretend that it was all fine, because I didn't want people to think that I was like weird or stupid, or I couldn't manage these things. And like even in terms of like friendships, I did that as well. And like when I couldn't fit in, I did just mask. I did just really try and change my personality and try and like all these things. And like I really analyzed what people were doing around me and
Mhm.
tried to fit in with that. And like, I mean, like looking back, and that did work periodically, like it worked. But then like a few years later, I just undid all of that anyway, because and I found my true friends. I found my real friends at
Mhm.
school, who a lot of them are the same people I was trying to be friends with before, but we've all been on this same path, and everyone changes so much
Mhm.
from being like 13 to being like 16, don't
I really have to apologize for our internet
they?
connection today.
So
Mm.
from that, like yeah, like I almost feel like when you do try to change your personality and stuff, like it all you just spend another year undoing it all, because you actually lose a big part of yourself if you do genuinely try and change for other people. Like
Yeah.
it does really affect you. And that hearing you say like how it can affect you, like made me make a lot of sense in my own mind about why these things were happening. Like that's such a smart way of thinking about it. I didn't think that it would actually affect you outwardly.
Yeah, and like you say, like because you're trying to fit in and you do everything, anything to fit in.
Yeah,
I've
especially
seen
at
so
the
many
ages of,
teenagers take drugs because their friends ask them to. They don't know how to
yeah,
say no. They tell, we're let's abscond together and we'll do this. And they struggle to say no because they want to feel like we're cool. This is my friends. I can't say no
yeah,
to them. But what happens is it's like you say, a year later, you found out or you learn actually this is not true friendship. You know,
mm,
and that needs some guidance from the people around you. And then and you'll get tired because it's not you
yeah,
cannot continue to act. Like it's like you're performing. You're an actress in a
mm,
drama in
mm,
Downtown Abbey, or whatever that is. You cannot continue to act as you're someone
mm,
else. It's
mm,
just not normal. It's not natural at all,
no,
and you will
no,
definitely break at some point.
mm,
But like I said, it's really hard for teenagers, especially teenagers with additional needs,
mm,
and they don't know enough about this. And probably
no,
educators don't know enough about this, about their challenges or
mm,
their strengths. That's the thing. We people think that if you have ADHD, you're on the outside or you're a bit goofy, you're
mm,
different. And that is not a good thing. But we keep talking about actually
mm,
differences is a good thing. Everybody's different. It's how do you see the strength
mm.
in the person?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the show called The Big Bang Theory? I love this show. My
No,
husband
I've never
watches
watched
it.
it, but I've seen parts of it. If it's been on the TV, I know roughly. Yeah.
So it's these four good, very everybody needs to go and watch Big Bang Theory. They're four goofy scientists, or they're really smart. They're so
Mm,
intelligent, but they're so goofy, and they really struggle with the social aspects. And some
mhm,
of the journey is about them finding themselves in the
mhm,
journey, and how can they be comfortable and
mhm,
with themselves, knowing actually differences are good, and we still have good friends. We get married, we do these things, and they achieve a lot. So it
mhm,
doesn't mean like A leads to B or it's B definitely leads to C. There's so many variables to think about. But I suppose what I want to share is that differences are good, celebrate their strength, and that's really important. But also the education side of things, support the young person when they are feeling on the outside.
yeah.
They need somebody to speak to. But I come back to the question I actually had earlier on, Bill, because you talk about, how you struggle for the first few years because
Mhm,
you moved from the forest of the country
yeah.
to the big city, Glasgow. So, what helped you to settle in and feel like, oh, I actually feel good to be in this place? I feel there's a sense of belonging. What helped?
Um, I mean, it definitely wasn't straightforward, but I think when I really became close with, I had two consistent close friends throughout the whole thing. But even then, I had my issues with, and I had my insecurities with, whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm still actually best friends with them to this day, and they're like some of my best friends. But for me, having that really helped because it almost meant that I had a safe place to separate myself from whatever was going on because I
Mhm.
knew that that didn't matter and that I actually am fine how I am.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like, I mean, I wish there was like a straightforward answer, but I just kind of like stumbled through the first 3 years and like till I felt
Mhm.
better and till I found what was right. And then, I mean, sounds bad, but it did kind of help trying to fit in and changing that part of myself. On the outside, it really did help. I did enjoy school more. And it did
Mhm.
actually teach me a lot about like dealing with people and like all these sorts of things. But yeah, pointless because you just go back to how you were before anyway. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I really can't give you a straightforward answer for that.
And it's okay. And it
I don't know.
probably, possibly, like everybody's journey is different. And if I thought about my personal experience of being on the outside all the time for those 6 years, for 6 years, man. Ooh, I don't know how I managed to go to school every single day. I think my parents did a really good job.
I wouldn't
In
have
terms
done
of
that.
going, like, you're going to school. I
Mm,
suppose thinking about my personal, well, I can like think about the probably will link into my professional experience as well. It's like thinking about my personal experience, all the young people's experience, and that I've heard about or I've worked with. I think it is really about having the person you can speak to. That is foremost important thing, because
Mm.
yes, we can make friends, but you know what? There's a few steps here, because if you have those feelings and you don't have anyone to speak to, it's not going to help, because I wasn't going to be able to solve the problem myself, feeling like I was already on the outside. Why did
Mhm.
I have any friends? So it's
Mhm.
really important that the young person, I wish I had someone I can speak to. And, if you know my story, I was a struggling teenager. So I
Mhm.
didn't know what I was going through. So
Mhm.
I wasn't able to tell my parents that actually I didn't have any friends, and I didn't know why I didn't have any friends. So I think it's really important, you have someone you can speak to, albeit your
Mhm.
parents.
Yeah.
I always like to promote and say, like, it's always best. The parents are the best person to speak to, because they're
Mhm.
always there for you. They want the best for you. And if your teenager's not speaking to you about this, you really need to think about how you can strengthen the
Mhm.
relationship and allow your teenager to feel comfortable to come and speak to you. And so that's the thing, I think, is having someone to speak to. And it could be a teacher in the school. You might have a teacher
Yeah.
you really liked,
Mhm.
or your neighbor maybe.
Mhm.
Your neighbor
Mhm.
friends and families, or good friends families. Some like I have some of the teenagers I work with, their parents have very good friends, and they will speak to their relatives or friends.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really need to have someone to speak about, so then you can think about, well, how are we going to do this together? What are the
Mhm.
things we need to address? And if it's about being in the environment, we don't have any friends, like you say, can we go and attend some extra curriculum activities? Can we
Mhm.
do things we are really passionate
Yeah.
about? Like, you know what, if I like singing, no,
Mhm.
I'm not, I don't like singing. I'm a tone deaf, but I play the
Mhm.
piano. Isn't it weird? So
Yeah.
it's so then if you will have that passion, then go to that group, because you will find people who love the same thing as you do. And then
Yeah.
that when you have a shared comment, it's easy to develop friendship.
And I think that's why when people go to university, all I've been hearing is like everyone just says like when you go to university, everyone finds their crowd. Like no matter who you are, like, you will find people that you resonate with and you get on with naturally, and you'll find your crowd. And I guess that's why, because you're doing something you want to do. You're
Yeah.
going to uni you want to go to, so obviously people are going to have similar interests to you in that case. Whereas school, everyone's just bundled in the nearest place,
Mm.
and you don't know if you're going to find your crowd. So that's why you should never take it personally if you don't fit in somewhere, because it doesn't mean anything to you. It's
Mm-mm. Absolutely. And the third part is
just because you've been able.
the other part what I'm thinking about is what I spoke earlier with the teenagers with additional needs, like whether you have ADHD, autism, if you're dyslexic,
Mhm.
if you have a disabilities, and all of these things. I think they need support from a school, but they
Mhm.
also need to help the friendship group understand what it is. What are the differences? What
Mhm.
does it mean for my friend to have ADHD? What does it affect them? And how can I be a good friend for my friend? So it's a mutual process, and help the young person to understand, what does it mean to have ADHD and be proud and in themselves, which
Mhm.
the brain just works differently.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the parts I will be thinking for the parent and for the will be helpful for teenagers who feels like they're on the outside, and
Mhm.
also for the parents and educators or professionals to think about how you can approach this matter to support young person to be on the outside. Because when there's an increasing of young people feeling on the outside, it's less likely
Mhm.
they will want to go to school, and we spoke about
Yeah.
this. And then when you don't want to go to school, what you will have is teenagers feeling depressed at home. Life is meaningless. What we're gonna do, and then sleep turn day into nights and feeling
Yeah.
inefficient about themselves, and it just will be a negative cycle, which is not helpful at all. So we do want to foster and the environment and for the teenagers to enjoy
Mhm.
school, and when they feel like they're on the outside, they cannot approach this
Yeah.
and effectively with the support around them. So, Belle, I can't believe how fast time
Yeah.
flies. We didn't even have time to talk about other aspects. But I think I'm pretty happy about
No,
what we
I
talked
think that
about
was a
today on
really
the
good.
outside.
I think we
Yeah,
covered a lot. I think we covered it in terms of our experiences, and I think
yeah,
that's like the
absolutely.
most helpful if we can talk about it from that perspective.
Absolutely. So, as usual, we're going to end the show with the curiosities. So,
Mhm.
what would you like to encourage the parents or the teenagers to be curious about?
I would be encourage the teenagers to be curious about not labeling themselves not worthy, or don't label yourselves in terms of the people around you. Like, don't, recognize your own strengths and who you are,
Mm,
and know that like you will find your crowd, and even if you don't, as long as if you accept yourself, you will enjoy your own company anyway. So
mm-mm.
yeah.
Okay, that's a good curiosity. So I take I will have to my curiosity would be for the
Yeah.
parents.
Uh-huh.
I suppose my curiosity for the parents maybe it's around be curious about the differences, which I keep talking about the differences, because hang on a second, I lost my train of thoughts. Ah!
That always happens to me.
I know it's like what? Right, I think let me restart. Let me rephrase. I would like to encourage the parents to be more curious about the differences. The differences in terms of how your team, who your team is, and what they are, and thinking about and the reason I'm saying this, Bill, because I know parents all have an expectation of their teenagers and how they want them to be, what kind of a person they are, and then what kind of job they will have. There's a baseline around this. I wish my kid, I want my kid to grow up to be a
Yeah.
doctor, or I want my kid to be, well mannered, and I want my kid just to be able to listen. So parents will always have the expectations, and sometimes they will be listening to other people's teenagers saying, my teenager's really good. They listen to whatever I say, and then they
Mhm.
do this, they do extra curriculum, and then the parent might be thinking, so why isn't my son doing all these things? Right. And
Mhm.
they were probably thinking, right, you need to go and do these things. So
Mhm.
I want parents to be more curious about the differences in their teenagers,
Mhm.
and being open-minded about who your
Yeah,
teenagers are, and
that's very true.
yeah, and then also please do think about supporting your teenagers if they're saying like I don't want to go to school. Oh, like I'm not well. If their frequency of illness is really high, you
That was
really
definitely what I did for a
yeah, it's
good
like, oh, I have a headache. Oh, I have a tummy ache. Oh, I can't go to school. Oh, like, if there's a frequency in the increased frequency of your teenagers not going to school, if there's a pattern, then you probably really need to think about what is happening for your teenagers, what is happening in the school. Whether it's about what we spoke about today is are they feeling excluded? Are they feeling they don't fit in there on the outside? Or they're actually experiencing bullying, which is very common just now
Yeah.
young people experience a lot of this. So do think about these things and be there to support your teenagers.
Mhm.
If you would like more resources, please do go to my website. It's the
Mhm.
www.rainbowparentingpractice.com, or please subscribe to our show. And it's been lovely talking to Bill again. I wish this never
Yeah.
stopped, but we have to stop.
Yeah.
Right, we'll see you guys in the
See you
next
next
episode.
episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. If you find this show helpful, please hit that follow or subscribe button. It does wonders for the show so more people can find Teen Talk navigating teen challenging behavior organically. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please drop me a line at pei@teentalkpod.com. That is PEI-I at teentalkpod.com. I read every email I get. Whether that's an episode idea, a guest recommendation, or just a simple note about how the show has impacted you. I'd love to hear from you. I am Pei-I, and I'll see you on the next episode.